really quiet. So this ought to be a very interesting or lack of interesting NFP. We have an 8-point range in ES in the overnight.
That's insane.
Yeah, it just doesn't get smaller than that. I think the smallest range I've ever seen in an overnight is 6 points, and we're just a little bigger than that. And yeah, that's just mind-boggling. So basically, everybody agrees right now that we are fairly valued after yesterday's little rally, and the big question is going to be, will NFP shake that up? I have this feeling that we're going to get one of two things. That's all I can say here. We're either going to get an absolute nothing because everyone's just like, no, I'm not going to try to play this, or we're going to get just a ridiculously crazy move. And, what could that look like? That's always, the way I approach these Newz extreme trades, because, the opportunity is the extremes. Nothing else is worth playing because it's not gameable, but the extremes are gameable. So where are the extremes? Let's start with that. That's a really good place to start. And so here's the TPO view for ES. Where would we define extremes? And again, everybody's sense of extremes are different, but that doesn't mean that we won't see some form of them. So, oh shoot, my little cuckoo clock's going off. Hang on, I just switched to the drawing tool, so I can't turn this off without switching back. I hate Zoom. All right, now back to the drawing tool so I can show you my interpretation of extremes. Extreme number one would be up here somewhere. Take that high out or test it. Take this poor weak high out from way back here. And that's interesting spot number one. And that's high 4100s, not far away at all. It's 50 points away. Interesting area number two would be first right here, but I think that would probably go pretty fast. This area, this 4070 area is interesting because it's had strength. Before. We have an old single print down here. We have a bunch of single prints here that are probably going to get hit. And, then another level all the way down here that gets interesting again. So those are extremes. That's what I mean when I say if you're going to play extremes with NFP or any other, Newz release, that's where you got to be looking to play. So, basically we're trading at 25. So we're looking at 50 points up or 50 points down, maybe a little less than that, depending on what happens right here, say at 4,100, because that was traded aggressively yesterday, if you remember. That spot was active a couple of times in recent weeks. So that's worth watching. And so that's the story. If any questions on that, otherwise I'll put it away and we'll take a look real quickly at the same thing over in NQ, since that's what I'll probably trade, although I'll watch this for my Qs. So, no questions? Okay, let's go look at, oh God, this Zoom, I hate this. I have to go back to the spotlight, minimize this, then I can put it away, then I can go get NQ, then I have to turn the drawing tool back on. Why couldn't the drawing tool let me also be a mouse? Would be easy. Okay, NQ, a lot trickier picture because it's been stronger than ES. It's already broken out and has held. Come on, this is not scaling. It's Zoom lagging. Okay, there we go. No, there we don't go. All right, one more try. Come on, there it is. Now I've got to predict where it's going to stop. Okay, I got it. Now let's draw again. So, obviously this area is interesting. That's the top of the recent range. I don't know that I'd fade that, though. If we got up there, I might join it because it could be a rock and roll ride, this way. There's just nothing up here. We haven't been here in forever. So that's interesting. This is much more interesting in NQ is if we can get back down here anywhere in this area to buy it. So a sudden sharp drop down to here, I would get long. I would automatically do that just because why? Well, look at all this energy here and also here. So this is a really strong level. It's not just going to plow through there. It's at least going to pause. So that's an interesting spot to nibble long, but it's a long way away. We're at 13,149 and, that's at 12.8. So that's a long way down. But it could happen. So again, long up here somewhere, but I would be cautious because I'd have to see momentum. But if it gets above that, it could really rock and roll. I doubt it would happen with the equities close, though. We'd probably burst up and then trade back into the range. This one down here is the most interesting. If it sold off into this area, catching along down there could be a sweet little trade. Yeah, we have a good turnout. This is cool. Hey, nothing else to do this morning, right? So anyway, that's my take on ES and NQ. Similar situation in the other instruments. You can kind of do the same exercise and just kind of look for recent artifacts. Other than that, there's absolutely nothing to predict what's going to happen here. I mean, we have this really tight range, as I just said. We had a really nice sell-off in NQ a little while ago that was really scalpable the other way. Here, I'll show you. It was a big sweep down. And again, just holding the bottom of the range, but it took out the recent lows in the process. And you can see the volume picked up. This is such classic price action shit. Look at this. So we started this little move down, and it didn't pick up any energy until right here. Why did it pick up energy right there? Because it was taking this low out. And so, the width of this bar indicates the volume. The volume increased right there. And again, no surprise, that's classic price action. When you get to an inflection level, you either bounce or you rip through it. And when the volume picks up like that, it's going to rip through it. So, that was a classic spot you could have shorted. And, then it went into ebb and flow at the low, and now it's sitting there waiting for more information. Well, that's where we're at. Okay, so that's the kind of introduction of the scenario going into the number, which we will get in about 10 more minutes. Remember this, we're only open for 45 minutes after this. So if there's going to be a reaction, number one, it's going to happen really fast. And number two, the only good trade under these scenarios is if it gets to an extreme to play it. Don't try to join momentum otherwise, because momentum's going to stop really fast. There's going to be high volume reversals off momentum. So what you're going to want to do is, be really patient. If it gets to an extreme, take the trade. Don't try to do it with limit orders. I find market orders fill pretty effectively under these conditions, without a lot of slippage. The danger of using a limit order, and you see this happen to me all the time, you get to an extreme, you try to put a limit order on, you miss by 2 ticks, and then it goes, 50 points the other way in your favor. That happens so frequently that when I'm doing these extremes, if I am trying to use a limit order, and it doesn't fill, I'll just hit the market. So that's the way that I execute against it. And protect yourself as fast as possible, as usual with scalping. Get a protective stop between the entry and current trade, and let it rip. We could see some pretty good movement here if this thing gets going. Let me show you another view of ES real quick. Whoops, that's the 5-second. Didn't want that one. I want the other one. So the other thing, I've got a bunch of stuff on my other monitors. It's all my contextual stuff. And this is something I've been watching a lot, which I find really interesting. Intraday, I've been watching, well, here, let me show you that first. So intraday, I watch the 1 minute, and I anchor a VWAP to today. And then I watch, the extremes of the VWAP. We talk about this every live session, SD1 to SD4 of the VWAP. That's, the extremes of the volume on any given day, and it's a decent way to kind of look for extremes. This is something that I added to it, and I've talked about this in some of my live sessions. I added a weekly VWAP, and I anchored it to the week, and so we can see the last 2 weeks here. And I'm finding this to be really powerful. So these SDs are weeklies. So these are last week's extremes, and look where we are in ES here. We're in a really tight range at the extremes of last week. There's no way to interpret this but bullish. The market is holding up at a new level, a new range. And so, but yet again, on the way down, as we're taking out weekly extremes, like if we got to weekly SD2 to the downside, it's important to note that that's right on SD2 from last week as well. And that was an area that there was some strength. You can see all three of these initial balances were higher, higher high, higher high. So interesting spot if it gets right back down into there. So this is have we gone far enough? It's another kind of way of looking at that, like ATR or, whatever method you want to use. And I'm finding that to be really powerful. So that's kind of how, I get asked that question. Well, you say trade extremes. How do you figure out the extremes? Well, that's how. If it gets to any of those SD2 or 3s, particularly on the weekly, and if it gets anywhere near levels that got bought last week, that gets particularly interesting just because the odds are good for a snapback. It's asymmetrical. You'll hear me say that all the time. It's not about being right and wrong. It's about being asymmetric. That way, if I'm wrong, I know it right away. And if I'm right, the good trades work right away and they're profitable. Asymmetric entries will do that. If you're sitting in a trade and it's not going anywhere and you're struggling to make it work, you probably don't have an asymmetric entry. You probably are, at some spot that is in the middle of value and it's being contested. Whereas asymmetry, if you're catching a sweep down and you're buying along, that trade should work almost instantly. And, we've seen some examples of that in the live sessions. If it doesn't work instantly, then there's a really good chance you're wrong because, those reactions tend to be very fast. That's all. All right. I'm also still battling a wicked cold. So if I start coughing or my nose is running and I'm sniffling, I apologize, but I just cannot seem to clear up this stuff. So, the perils of being over the hill. I have a good little meme on my Facebook wall today or yesterday that once you get over the hill, it's you go downhill faster, which is so true. The tiniest things will impact your life and your health in ways you never predicted. Aging is very amusing if you take it with a sense of humor. Anyway, yeah, we have a great turnout today, Donnie. This is wonderful. Welcome, everybody. I know we have some guests. Welcome, guests. Very informal. If you have questions, ask me. I'll be happy to answer them. It doesn't have to be necessarily about NFP or, I'll do an ask me anything here because we have time and, we'll either get a reaction or we won't. So if we get a reaction, we'll try to trade it. I'm going to trade on the left dome over here. I will trade it in NQ, and this is 150,000, quote unquote, 5,000 drawdown funded account that I'm trading. I'm not copying to anything, and so I can be reasonably aggressive with that kind of drawdown. But reasonably aggressive under these conditions, maybe 20, 30 micros, 40 micros. I probably wouldn't do more than that. But that's the plan. Let's see. I tell people over 60 is cresting the peak of the roller coaster. Yes, that is what it's like. Is the Scalpathon still scheduled? Part of the problem with the Scalpathon is I'm sick, Pete. I keep putting the schedule together and then I'm about to publish it. And then my body says, you really need to get over your cold first. So at the moment, it's temporarily postponed. As soon as I feel 2 consistent days of not feeling sick, I will post the schedule. So that's such a hard thing to do because I trade during the night and I trade all different hours and I post every single trade when I do a Scalpathon. And so I just have to really be dialed in and I'm sick. So I apologize. I postponed it yet again, but it will happen. I definitely want to do a Scalpathon, which will include the classes on trading the range during regular session. That I'm putting those 2 together. And yes, we will do it. Again, I apologize for the delay, but it's part of that old over the hill thing. God, you get a cold and it can end up being, major impact of your life. Hey, it's funny. I'm surprised that, the move had very little impact on me other than tired, and I literally did the whole thing myself. I packed the truck, drove it through the snowstorm, unpacked it with a little bit of help at this end, but and that didn't really impact me until like 4 or 5 days later. I just kind of collapsed from exhaustion and slept for a couple of days, and then I got a cold. That's classic, So trying to get rid of it. Also, the pollen up here in Washington. I don't have allergies, but man, the pollen my nose is running. I'm sneezing. My friends who are transplants up here tell me it takes time, and you get accustomed to it. And again, I have no allergies, so that's just weird that I'm responding that way to it. But anyway, I live in the middle of a little forest, which is pretty cool, but there's all kinds of pollen and creatures. And spring finally started. When I first moved in, there was no creature sounds outside. And then just about a week ago, we started hearing all the birds. And then there's a red robin building a nest in my window box, which is really cool. I'll get to watch what's going on with him. Anyway, any other questions, comments, put them in the chat. I will endeavor to answer them. It is open Q&A. Look at the spread in NES right now. Look at this, or in NQ rather. The bid-ask spread is like 3 points. Now it's coming. That's what this kind of mesh means. That's the bid and the ask right now. Look at it. Look at it spreading out. Wow. Yeah, just everybody's pulling. Look at how thin the market is now. There's 1 digit of liquidity in ES in some places. Not even 10 contracts offered or bid. That is just hysterical. Okay, boy, if we get numbers, man, this is going to be a rocking crazy. There's no liquidity. So imagine if somebody wants to put on, for example, 100 lot right now. They could sweep the book down to 15. It could be a 10-point sweep to get through that. This is going to be so much fun. I hope we get a number that shakes up the market, because we have the conditions to really make it go crazy. God, even the spread in ES is 3 ticks now. Interesting. All right. So here we go. We have 1 minute. I will shut up and we'll see the reaction and we'll trade it if it's at an extreme. If it's not extreme, I'm not going to trade it. It's just way too thin to try to play if we're not, something really asymmetric. Okay, if that works for you, Andrew. My platform never keeps up with price discovery anyway, no matter how fast I set it. So I just let it settle. If I can't execute on my dome with then I don't. And often with price discovery, that's the way it is. Look at this. The price is moving around by 5 points at a time right now. It's hard to see on a chart, but if you watch a dome, you can really see price discovery. The chart doesn't display as much information. So this is a really good place to watch what price discovery looks like. And again, watch the spreads. That's that gray that's forming. That's the bid-ask spread. Whoa, big sweep down there. Okay, we got the number. The market absorbed it really fast. Look at that. Okay, now we're bid up. Let's see if we can find a spot to fade the high here. That's what it looks like it might want to be. Wow, look at that. It got all the way up to 31 in ES, which isn't that far. It pushed the top just a bit. I'm going to look for a short up here, but it's got to come up. Maybe 0.0 would be interesting. I don't think we're going to get up there, though. This is pretty much working the range that we had before the number came out. So, and again, I don't really care what the numbers are, but they're out. If you're interested, here they are. But this is price discovery, and it's slow and thin. I don't know that we're going to get a trade here. Let's see. The trouble with trading price discovery is even if your idea is right, you got to get back out with your profits. And when it's moving up and down so much, that can be really difficult, even with market orders. In fact, market orders can really slip a lot. Look at all the liquidity up here, well, relatively, that we're now trading into. This could be a short right here. It could be a short. Let's see if we can nibble short here. I'm going to try to have it come up to me and catch a push up for short. Let's see if we can do that. But it's got to come up to me. You can't chase this. So this is a decent spot to play in NQ because I'm playing the extreme up here. It's not very extreme. I think I'll probably get a fill here. This is where it got sold. So if we can blip above that, see if we can get a fill. That might be too far away. Let's try to do it right there, right in that absorption, and then we'll scale into it if it goes further up. Yeah, it traded. Ooh, it teased me. Almost got filled there. Missed by a tick again. Come on. Wow, look at that. I missed by 2 ticks that time. Okay, I'm just going to leave it there. Let's move it down 1 tick to 79, right under that volume. And it fills or it doesn't. Missed by 3 ticks. Oh, we could make a really funny highlights video of Jeff missing by 2 ticks or 1 tick or 3 ticks. And look at the absorption. I had exactly the right spot. Absorption into the bid. I'm just a crack too high there. And look at the trade. That's a nice 15-pointer now. Oh, well, that was a good idea. I didn't execute it quite well enough to get a fill, but that was a really good idea. Maybe we'll get another push up there. I doubt it. I think we're done. I think this is pretty much going to be the end of the play here. But, it's coming up again. Maybe. I'm going to try to get a tiny bit more aggressive. That way, if that level goes, I can scale into it up here. That will make some sense. And this way, at least maybe I'll get a fill. Maybe. Let's reset the, now let's leave it. Let's watch the volume over here in NQ. I'm trading MNQ, but you can see it much more clearly in the absorption there. Whoa, big sweep down. Yeah, playing short is definitely the right idea, but you got to get the right entry, and it's further up. So might be able to play right here now. Again, I don't think I'm going to get filled up here. I think I missed my chance. So maybe, maybe if this gets priced back in and we get a little bit more push up, it's possible. Spread's big again. Liquidity's filling in. Now we're at double digits at least. An improvement. Nothing to see here. It might be coming up. Hold on. Come on, come to daddy. 75 even. I'll take 75. Okay. I'm chasing it down because here, let's do this. And then, all right. Now maybe we'll get an entry here. Got it. Finally. Okay. Just to scalp back to the top of the value area. There we go. Okay, there's one. Again, sometimes you got to do that. You got to come down to where the market's trading. Now it might come up and get me. Okay, maybe we'll get another entry up here. I still like this little high volume node. So let's see if we can get a fill right near that guy. And we did. Oh, cool. It swept up to it. All right, let's see if we can get the other one. And now we'll put some targets down here. And they'll probably get hit pretty quick here, I think, right on that volume. What's that volume for my target? My first one, and then the value area high is the next one. And it's pushing up a bit. I think we're going to get a fill in a second here. Let's put some more 92, and we'll cancel that one. Okay. Now we have a little 6 lot on. Again, I'm just going to take profits into this liquidity here. Now, last target's going to be the bottom of the value area, or top of the value area. I don't think we're going to get there, though. So let's take profits here. Oh, come on. Tried. All right. Well, we got 4 of the 6 off. Let's see if we can get another push up to scale into this. Otherwise, we'll grab this as fast as I can. It still should come down here, but I had to chase it, and I couldn't get a fill. So I want to take profits. There we go. We got it. Okay. So that's a good example. We made a few bucks. So that's how you scalp the extremes. I staked out extremes that were much farther away that I liked more, but once we established this little news related range, clearly this is fadeable up here. And so had to chase it a bit, have to be a little bit more aggressive on those, but you just watch where the traded volume is, and it's really predictive as to where it's going to trade back and forth to the downside here. There's nothing I like. I wouldn't play this short, and there's no long until we get way down here. So this is still a short at the top. That's really the only way I would play this. So maybe we can get another push up into those volume areas. Not as good a setup as it was when it was first pushing up there. Now it's kind of more rangy, and it'd be harder to get money out of this. But a fill up there wouldn't be a horrible spot. You could see it got absorbed just above it. And the same story here. So I'm front running this one a little bit. Same thing here. Obviously the real good spot is up here if it really makes an extreme, but I just don't think we're going to have enough momentum to do that. I look at the volume, 54,000 contracts. Liquidity picked up though. We're reasonably, well, we're thicker, double digits anyway, which for this time of the day on a news, that's normal liquidity. So, all right. Well, got a couple of little winners there. That was fun, but I think that's probably going to be the extent of what we get here. Let's just sit tight and see if we get another burst of energy, but I think it's going to diminish now, and then we're just going to kind of quietly settle here. But I'm going to leave the liquidity on here, and now I know where it is here, and I'm staked out, so I'm going to refresh this one. That way I can kind of watch this and watch the new volume over here and see if it shows me anything interesting for a long down here. I don't like a long down here, but there's absorption, so you could play right there. It's not going to hold, I don't think. Bottom of the value area, responsive buying, market profile, maybe, but it's got good momentum down. I wouldn't trade this either way here. Middle of the range, so it's definitely not a short, but it's not getting bought enough to try to play long. No trade. SOH. All right, let me go do some administration here on my other monitor while we're waiting to see if something else happens. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get up there, but we might. Okay, so let's see. Gotta download a Zoom video. All righty. Well, I don't see another trade at the moment. This is starting to get interesting for a long, but it's got to go further down before it does. So a snapback long in this liquidity down here could be very interesting, but it's got further to it's got to come down to this volume before I even start thinking about that. And that gets NQ. If NQ can get below 30, it could get interesting because there was buyers down there overnight. Here, let me show you that. So that was aggressively bought, and it exceeded SD4 for the day in NQ. So that's an interesting spot down there. I would buy that if we get down there. I like that spot, but we're nowhere near it. So, probably not going to happen. Awesome, Robert. Good job. 54,000 contracts. Denali is showing 32K. I am looking at the volume right here. ES, 56,000 contracts. And that's what Ninja says. Let's see what. Same story in Sierra. So your volume is wrong. Andrew? Or at least two of mine disagree. And I tend to go with the majority on problems like that. So. No, I wasn't. I never look at the volume for NQ, Andrew. My references are always ES because it's the broad market. It's 500 index, 500 equities. It's the standard. So that as far as the range and the volume and what happened overnight, my metric is always going to be ES. And then I trade NQ exclusively. I don't trade ES anymore. But I only trade NQ based on either its extremes or absorption or, lack of absorption or artifacts, in the structure of ES. I do not look at the structure of NQ. So that's actually a good point to bring up. So. Again, we are open Q&A. AMA, we might as well do all the A's. So if you have any, questions or comments about anything, I'm here, we're here, ask away. I'll be happy to try to answer your questions. And it's trying to go lower, but again, 50 is an area I normally like. We're trading into the bid. But, I just don't see an incentive for the market to rally off this low. So there's no reason to buy here. Again, on the other hand, if we take out the recent lows or get down there, then there's an incentive for people to scalp back into the range. But we're in the range. We're right at the bottom of the range right now. And so, scalping here you might be able to make a little money on that absorption, but it just, you're not going to catch a big whip to the upside under those conditions. It's just not in the cards. Why do I no longer trade ES? Because I can make a lot more money on the same setups in NQ, Edward. Really simple. ES is really, really thick with, scalping algorithms and lots of, program trading. And so, it's a really good proxy for the market, to look at ES. But executing particularly scalps against ES is, one tick scalps are easy, but because of the little 3-tick algorithms that go back and forth, getting any kind of sudden pops in ES is much harder. I catch big sweep, sudden sharp moves in NQ all the time based on, ES setups where ES doesn't do that. So that's the simple answer. And in my trading past, I've been trading 50 years. Back in the mid 2000s, I traded YM the same way for the same reasons. It was just a better profit for the same, types of setups. And also back when they first launched the YM contract, there was the CBOT who launched it. It was discounted commissions for like 2 years. So it was the place to play because you paid a lot less commissions and it was fun, so in those days, that was the ideal. Right now, NQ is absolutely the premier instrument because, it often leads when we get, good trend moves going either direction. And it's got, here's the simple answer. If there's a 1% move in ES, Edward, and the 1% move in NQ, you'd say, well, they move the same amount. Yeah, but within that, the NQ will move around much more within that 1%, therefore creating more scalping opportunities, whereas the ES will be tighter within that same 1%, even though they move the same amount. There's just less volatility. It's, the NQ is thinner, so you just get better extremes. That's the short answer. On the other hand, if you're a structural trader, the Qs and ES are really good. There are no really good Qs in NQ. It's very hard to read structure in NQ. That's why I look there for my Qs and I trade NQ, but you could trade ES that way as well. It just, in my experience, isn't as productive, certainly not for my style. So there's your short and long answers. Good question. For some reason, I'm just looking at my emails. That's hysterical. Huh. Oh, well. You are welcome, Edward. And again, we're going to kind of just wait and see if we get another push up here to fade, which I will if we get up there. Although I don't like this spot anymore. It filled in too much volume. The first spot I really like is right here. So we'll push this further up. Yeah, so if we get up there, I'll fade it. And, obviously further up, because I just don't think we're going to get a big break the ledge to the upside long move with the market not opening later. So that's a decent bet, but I just don't think we're going to get up there. I think we're going to pretty much settle right here. Let's see. What do you search for visually to determine momentum? Momentum. You can see it in the price action, but the tools that I use for it, Jeffrey, the two tapes are my primary momentum tool right now. The one on the right, I'm looking at every single trade, and this is NQ. Even though I'm trading MNQ, I'm watching the tape of NQ. So by the speed of the tape and the size of the blocks, I can get a sense of the momentum. See, there's a little burst of momentum there, and we're trading into the ask. And then I've got the same thing going, but I'm filtering for blocks of 5 or more, because at the inflection points, the block activity will pick up. If we get up to a good spot to fade, you'll see big blocks going by, as it's getting absorbed, for example, they would trade into the ask and the ask wouldn't get lifted. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. So that's my primary momentum. The LRCs are not about momentum. Remember, LRCs are really one function. I want a statistical way of evaluating the range. I don't want to try to figure out the range myself. LRCs use a sum of squares method of statistically telling me what's likely. It's the best fit of the data. It's not the top of the channel. It's not the bottom of the channel. LRCs will let a price exceed an LRC because, again, it's best fit. That is literally what the term regression in maths means, best fit. That is what the LRCs do. So they don't tell you anything about momentum. They tell you about extremes of the short-term range, Jeff. Ooh, this could be fadeable right here. I'm going to just grab that. See how I chased that down because I could see the absorption, and it just looks like a really good fade, if not right back to the top of the VA. There it is. So again, I'm not trying to show you how much money I can make. I'm just showing you techniques. That was just a really good, obvious, look at that. It got absorbed. And boom, a trade right back down into the range. So, and the LRCs didn't tell me anything there. Although you can get some clues off of the momentum by looking at the wave volume, Jeff. That's why I have the wave volume up here. I can see, like right now, the up thrusts are significantly bigger than the down thrusts. 300, 74, 343, 141, 76, 67. That was ebb and flow right there. Then we broke out of it with 500, pulled back on 100. This is a weak up move. And that's why I'm looking to fade it further up. And that's where I read the momentum right there. Let's see, other than the discretionary process you keep drilling, what nuances do we need to keep in mind when wanting to learn range scalping? Practice. This is the number one thing that people don't hear me say, Pete. Great question, by the way. People will come into TRG, be a member for a year, hear me say that the way to get good at this is practice. They'll hear me say that 100 times, and then they'll, I can't learn that, and they'll go looking for another magic indicator that says buy here and sell here. And it's just practice. That's all there is to it. The more you do it, the better you get at it. It's like playing handball or volleyball or baseball or soccer. You get better by practicing. It seems like such common sense, but for some reason, traders just refuse to hear that answer, and that's the answer. Practice. The more mistakes you get, the better your brain gets at seeing when one's coming. You get a blink. And the more times you're right, the better your brain gets at saying, okay, that's a good setup, like absorption right here. Could you fade this right here? Yes, you could. And you could immediately get some ticks like that. That's a blink. I did that because I have seen that hundreds of thousands of times, and I know it will work. And if it doesn't work, I know it will feel different. Okay, so that's the answer to your question. It's practice. Yeah, one of the reasons, Jeff, that I put my tapes back. Remember, I had my tapes on, then I took them off, and the reason I put on just the NQ tapes next to MNQ here is it just gives me a really good sense. All of them tells me the momentum. Right now, there's no momentum. And this tells me, if there's blocks playing, like I just faded 80, look at all the blocks that faded 80 with me. That's why that worked. Somebody was absorbing up there, and you could see it in the traded volume, or you can see it in the blocks, and it helps me see it faster. That's how I do it. And again, it's just practice. There's nothing magic here. There's no, $5,000 indicator that's going to tell you when this is happening. You just keep doing it every day over and over again until it becomes second nature. And then it's almost like magic. That's where the magic happens. When, you can feel like crap, scrape yourself out of bed, be half asleep, and just pull off trades like that. And that's when I know I'm really, dialed in, when I can do that. And that happens a lot more frequently now that I practice so much. I'm not exaggerating when I give you guys numbers, which I do occasionally. On a typical day, I might do a couple of 100 to 1,000 trades, depending on if I'm copying or not, whatnot. So do the math. If there's typically 200 trading days or so, a little bit more than that a year, this is literally hundreds of thousands of trades that I've done just in the last couple of years. Forget, 10 years ago. And it's like anything else. If you do it over and over again, you're going to get better at it, or there's something wrong with your learning ability if you don't. It's quite literally that simple. Okay, let's see. The Hour Between the Dog and the Book. Absolutely. That is a great book. And what I love about that book is it was written by a trader who became a neuroscientist. I mean, that's just, there's some really smart traders out there. And yeah, his perspective is perfect because it balances the neuroscience with the trading psychology. That is a great book. No question about it. Okay, let's see. Ted, if they don't want to practice and they're saying they don't want to trade, their goals are other than learning. Well, that's the problem. People want it to be easy, Ted. And, I can repeat that all you got to do is practice this over and over again. And, I coach people one-on-one every now and then. I'm doing a few right now. And the main reason that fails is people just don't embrace practice. I had someone I was coaching about 6 months ago, and we lasted a couple of weeks because, they kept saying, okay, show me how this really works. And, show me how to do this. And I'd say, well, here's what you do. And now your assignment, mentee, coachee, is to go do this, this week, a couple of thousand times, and then we'll look at your results. And, then I'd come back a week later and they didn't do it a couple of thousand times. They did it 4 times or 5 times. And, so it becomes really clear. You're not getting it because you're not practicing and you're not listening to what I'm telling you to do. So therefore, there's nothing I can do to help you. And that's the most common thing that happens. It's really rare that somebody embraces the concept and really understands the practice. And, and unfortunately, this has been our experience in TRG. We've learned this, that people are lazy and they want to get rich quick. And, consistent results are just a matter of practice. Look at Lee, look at me, look at anybody that, can put up profits day in and day out. They're just doing the same thing over and over again and they're getting better at it. Maybe they're perfecting their tools. Lee's always creating new emoji tools. I'm pretty standard in the stuff I look at, but I, put things back and forth, like, putting the tapes back on. Look at how you can see see the sudden burst of momentum. It's just really obvious there. And we can see where it's trading. Is it on the bid or the ask? Trading on the bid, it's temporarily getting bought here. And so we might see a little squirt up, unless that gets swept down. And see, now the blocks are coming in, it's getting swept down. So not going to go anywhere. And so it gives you just it catches my attention when I'm doing something else, when that thing suddenly starts moving really fast. That's why I have the one lots there. It just gives me a really good sudden sense of the momentum. And often the momentum over here in the blocks is a little bit different in MNQ versus NQ. I've found some really good little arbitrage opportunities. For example, a couple of days ago, the low in MNQ was temporarily 4 points lower than NQ because it had overshot a low. It's a different instrument, even though it's a derivative of the same thing, the NQ, it's a different instrument. So when that happened, it was just obviously a really long. I put 20 on as fast as I could on MNQ because when MNQ overshoots the low and NQ doesn't, what does that tell you? The retail guys got swept, but there's buying in the NQ at that level, so it's going to come back up. They're going to go back to parity. And sure enough, a blink later, they were at exactly the same price, and it was a perfect trade. And so you can often catch arbitrage opportunities. That's why lately I'm running the DOM for NQ and MNQ. And then the other interesting thing you might get a kick out of this, if you saw my post yesterday, one of the things I'm doing, I have a new drill, which is really fun. What I do is I put up 2 MNQ DOMs. And so here's one and here's another. And this one's currently in an eval with the Lilu bundles. And what I do is the only rule is I have to trade one long and one short. That's my only rule for this drill. I can trade whatever I want, but the one I'm in long and the one I'm in short, if I go into a trade, I have to do them both. So it helps me, sometimes like if you look at the example I posted, I might do, 70 in one and 10 in the other one, but I force myself to trade them both. So what it does is it really helps me question what I think is happening in the order flow because, one of them is right and one's wrong right away. And if they're both wrong, which is the example I posted in the pit, that's a good example of there's probably no trade there because, playing long or short, they're both not working. It's just, it's just an ebb and flow back and forth. And so you're not going to be able to make money either way. So that's a fun little drill. If you get a chance to try that, I recommend it. And so I just made an extra DOM here for that. But most of the time, this is on the NQ DOM and I'm looking at the action over here. Look at that absorption at 80 and there's liquidity up there again. So, that becomes a really interesting spot to play. A big volume, high volume node, and that's why, I've been playing up there ever since we got the news. So it's really clear why that's a good spot. And further up we go, you see a lot of liquidity up here. So everybody's trying to do what I'm doing. Everyone would be really happy getting short up here, at least, before we close. And because it's producing good little scalps. Okay, what's the filter for the tape? This one is no filter, and this one over here is 5 or more. And these are jigsaw reconstructed tapes, not time and sales. Make sure if you're doing this, you're using reconstructed tapes. Otherwise, you're just going to get the noise of the feed without it trying to assemble the trades together, which is what it does if you reconstruct. Let's see, Jeff, are your domes in CR? These domes are jigsaw, Edward. And so I use 3 different platforms. Right now you're seeing Jigsaw and Ninja. And I do my structural stuff in Sierra chart, and this is my Sierra chart here. As you can see, we have UB at the high and 0 print down there. I think we have UB at the low too, don't we? No, bottom was okay. Stops down at the bottom. So anyway, so that's what I do. Jigsaw is my primary execution platform. That's what these domes are. I love the execution tools in Jigsaw. They just are perfectly suited for the type of scalping that I do. And I can connect it at the same time to any of my data feeds. I can trade, my amp or my iron beam or any of my evals and rhythmic. That's one thing I really like about the default version of Jigsaw is multi-broker, multi-account at the same time. You don't need to load different instances. All you have to do is click the drop down and you can change accounts or brokers, instantly. And that I find to be very powerful also because I trade a lot of different accounts and I copy and all that crap. So. Good questions, guys. What other questions do we have? This is fun. It's pretty much winding down now. We're gonna just pretty much settle right around here. I don't think you're gonna see a whole lot more action. And just so I don't get caught in a trade that I don't want to be in, I'm gonna cancel my orders up there because it's running out of time to be able to execute against that. I think we're pretty much gonna just settle right here. In fact, let's reset all the domes, and I bet we won't see it move much in either direction. Okay, nice turnout. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Once again, thank you, guests. Welcome. Hope it was educational. This is always a fun event to trade. NFP, we do it every month. And, today we made a few bucks. Not a lot. We made, let's see, I traded 2 micros and I made 4 at one point, and we made just under $100. So that's all right, Again, not about how much money I can make in front of you. I'm demonstrating technique. Scale it as you see fit. I am in the process of scaling up. If you're watching my Scalping the Micros this morning posts in the pit, you'll notice I'm getting much bigger winners, and I'm also pretty much trading at least, I'm trying to get up into the double digits of micros most of the time at the right spots, and that's paying off. I'm getting bigger winners, and I'm still not getting losers, so that's working nicely. And again, I post that stuff in the pit, not to, oh, look at me, or here's how much money I can make. I'm just showing you, that this technique works, and it's consistent. The only mistake you can make is sitting in a trade wrong. And, I've just burned that into myself not to do that. And, good trades work right away. Don't lose money, and take profits right away. And, you can see that if there's any doubt about the technique, just scroll back for the last 9 months. I mean, I've been posting these every couple of days or every day. And, I saw a review of TRG on one of these pirate sites where they're selling our videos, illegally. And the reviewer in broken English said, this guy Jeff says he's been trading 50 years. Where's the verifiable proof? I hear this shit all the time. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. My record is public and clear. So if that's your attitude, then, there's something wrong with you, dude. Because, well, how come I don't post my broker statements? Fuck you. I don't care. My broker statements are mine. Can I trade profitably? Yes. Is there proof of that? I just showed it to you, so don't give me that. I see that, and it makes me angry. If you're buying into that same kind of nonsense about, only take classes from people that post their brokerage statements, I guarantee you most of those brokerage statements are bullshit. They're falsified. It's just, that's people trying to get credibility that don't have credibility. People that have been trading a long time and have been publicly in the trading world for a long time, like me and many others, we don't need to do that. And it's stupid, because it doesn't mean anything. Me showing you my broker statement, what does that mean? Nothing. So it's about technique. It's about learning technique, and technique gets better by practice. It's literally that simple, but a lot of people just refuse to accept the simplicity of our business.
Well, and if you didn't want to believe broker statements, you could always start arguing, look, he's probably got multiple accounts, and he's just showing us the one where he's making money. So
exactly,
you can't ever satisfy them, ever.
No, you can't. And they get really excited, like when Daryl posts, I made $100,000 trade. We know nothing about the trade. Where did he scale in? Where, how many? So that's meaningless. I mean, I've had the biggest winner. Somebody asked me this a couple of days ago. What's the biggest winner I ever had? About $800,000 is the biggest winner I ever had. And that trade was luck. I just happened to be in the right spot at the right time, and I scaled it, and it paid off. But, putting that out there and say, look how good I am, that would be the worst example of my trading, because it was the least likely to happen again. The stuff in the scalping happens every day. So that is the bread and butter. Good questions. Let's see. Can you please put the seconds up? Pacific time is fine. It really helps if you go back. So you mean this? Is that what you're asking?
I think they're asking for a real-time clock that can be easily seen to sync up recordings later.
Yeah, this is the thing. I used to have a box of this up on my monitor, and I lost that app. But yeah, I could do that. I'll see if I can find a little clock to have up on my screen. That's a good idea.
You can throw it on a Sierra window too, but then it can't overlay like transparently on top of.
Yeah, no, it would have to be just a little box. I could stick it like right here in a little, little app. Yeah, and I know there's a way to detach one of my clock apps lets me do that. I'll just have to go back and look at how to do it. You can detach a little digital clock. All right. I will endeavor to that. So let's see. These guys on APUC's getting 40K withdrawals. Some of that is they're not. Jeff's right about that. But there is a guy who I've actually communicated with a little bit who took almost $1 million out last year. He's real. That's legitimate. He's copying 20 accounts. He's scalping. He's trading some size, and he's a reasonably good scalper. That's totally doable. But most of the guys that you're seeing on Apex, what's happening is guys are getting funded with 10 or 20 accounts, and they're putting up really big numbers, and then they're blowing up. Most of those guys aren't getting to withdrawal. That's the business model of Apex. And some are. And, God, look, you can make money trading. And, there are people pulling money out of Apex. He's paying out a lot of withdrawals. So, it is legit, but, a lot of the people aren't legit, or they're caught in the, get funded, make big giant profits. They're not consistent. And those are the guys that just blow up. That's why the one-time fees are working so well for Apex, because, you're basically paying a couple of months of funded account fees in advance. And most people never make it through the first month. So, it's a little gold mine. So,
Payouts are coming from the losers.
Yes, exactly. The losers are funding the payouts. And, remember, the statistics across the market in futures are the same everywhere. If you talk to any broker, any retail broker, most of them will tell you that they have no profitable clients. I kid you not. Ask anybody who's a retail futures broker. Most of them will have no profitable clients. Some of them, depending on how big they are, will have 4 or 5 out of 100 that are profitable. That's typical. So same story in Apex. They might have 20,000, people in evals at any moment. It might be 10, 20, 30 of them that are actually getting withdrawals. That's common. That's normal. That's the numbers. Let's see. Do I ever trade through Ninja Brokerage? Yes, I do. I can copy. One of the cool things about the trade copier in Ninja, the Replicanto one, which is what I'm using, it's the Apex one, it's the same thing, is you can turn on the Cash Ninja feed at the same time without the multi-broker. So, for example, right now I'm connected to Lilu. And what I can do, so that's the trades we just did. What I can do, I can also turn on the Ninja account and it will connect. This is not multi-broker. I don't know if this is a bug or what, but once it goes on, you'll see in a second, one of my cash accounts will come up here, my Ninja Cash account, and then I can trade them both and I can copy to my cash from Rhythmic. See, there it is. We're now up in both of those accounts. See, they're both green. So the answer is yes, I do it all the time because of that. That's a way I can copy sim trades or eval trades to my cash or vice versa. And I don't keep a lot of money in Ninja. I'm not a huge fan of them as brokers, but that's very powerful, being able to do that. That's the only place I can really do that well, at least until Lee's upcoming copier comes out that can copy from any Rhythmic to any Rhythmic. That I can't wait to see, but that's probably a little ways off. Sorry, I'm teasing it, Lee, but I think it's a really great idea. Anyway, let's see. So next question. I'm wondering what would happen if regulation turns their gaze to the business model. No, this is not even regulated by the CFTC because we're trading in sims, Pete. So, the CME doesn't even really care because they're getting data fees out of it, and so I don't see a regulatory issue unless somebody, if Daryl closed down and took, $10 million and moved to Belize or something, that might trigger something. But this is not under the regulatory purview of really anybody because, there's all the disclaimers. This is educational only and we're trading in a SIM environment. So we're really not in the market when we're trading evals or quote unquote funded accounts. So consumer protection probably isn't going to be part of it. The markets never put up consumer protection barriers unless they have to. Like that's where the pattern day trader rules came from because, Ma and Pa were blowing their retirement accounts day trading back in the late 1990s. And, the lawmakers said that we're going to have just way too many people in the poorhouse over this. So, they made the pattern day trader rules, which are kind of silly anyway, but that was the reason they did that.
And they don't apply to futures. So
right, exactly. Which is one of the reasons I ended up in futures. I used to trade stocks a lot, but when the pattern day trader rules came out, number one, futures are a better environment. They're tax advantage, yada, 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 all those reasons. But when that first came out, that was when I stopped trading stocks when that came out because I said, well, that's silly. I don't want to leave. What they were forcing me to do was leave 50 grand in my equities account for no reason. And I didn't want to leave it there because it was dangerous to leave it there. So I screw that, Now when I trade equities or ETFs, I trade under 25,000. You've seen me do it in my Robinhood account all the time. I treat it like the pattern day trader rules apply and I respect them because with ETFs, generally I'm trading overnights and, buying one day and selling the next day so they don't break the rules anyway. So good questions, good comments. Let's see. Oh gosh, it's Donna, the fees that they make. If you just, when they have a sale at like Apex or Lulu, whatever, people are buying these, rhythmics for, let's just take a simple example, the 50K, they're spending $36. It costs Apex like $15 with rhythmic. So that's just an automatic profit. And the vast majority of those, 99.9% of those will go nowhere. So it's actually a really, really good business model. The fees are enormous. TopStep invented it. And, I tried to be a venture capitalist for TopStep. When they were raising money, I tried for months to get in on that deal because I loved the idea. I could not get in on it. I'm not an equity holder. I wanted to be. I've said this before in other sessions. And because the model just makes so much sense. Hats off to Michael Patak. He had a really good idea. And so it's a really good business model. Now we're seeing consolidation in the evaluators, and I think that's going to continue. I think, Lulu, Apex, maybe Elite, there's going to be, the rest of them are pretty much going to go away. I think, TopStep will stick around, but it's going to become, a leaders market and loss leaders and sales, all the stuff we're seeing now, that's going to get even more aggressive, I think. All right. Great questions. Great comments. Cool stuff. I think we're pretty much done here. I don't think anything's going to happen. So I will go ahead and start wrapping up. We're just coming up on the top of the hour. Actually, we just passed the top of the hour. So are there any other questions or comments? Let's see. I don't need any protection. I use common sense and read the fine print. Yeah, absolutely. That's what adults should all do. But unfortunately, particularly in the United States, Jeff, there's this kind of philosophy of, if I fuck up, I can just sue you. And it happens all the time. It's the classic people don't want to take responsibility for themselves stuff. Human nature. Thank you. I appreciate the sentiment, Pete. Yeah, I'm hoping to get better this weekend. I'm taking today off. I'm going to go do some recreation and rest over the weekend. Tomorrow I'm going to go for a little hike and see if I can clear my lungs out. So hopefully we'll be up and running next week and we'll get the schedule announced for the Scalpathon. I do appreciate
and
the
for
comments.
all the guests who are here this morning, by the way, if you want more of this and you want to jump in deep to all this good, fun order flow stuff, check us out at tradingresearchgroup.com. It's super cheap and amazing. You'll like it.
Absolutely. Yes. We're the no nonsense educator in the space. I think that, and that's really important. We tell it like it is. We do it live in front of you. We're not selling magic indicators. We're not selling get rich quick. And unfortunately, that doesn't appeal to most people. Most people want get rich quick and they want magic indicators. So, but we're serious and everybody here is serious. And I think that pays dividends for the people participating. So that's the way it is. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up. Any other comments? Thank you, JVC, as usual.
Absolutely.
I know Lee is here quietly. I don't know if he wants to say anything. I assume he won't unless he pops in. And again, the rest of, obviously today is over, and gotta look at the spread now. The spread's 77.5 by 80. Yeah, so 3 points to put on a trade. Anyway, and so it'll be interesting. The next event we have is the Sunday reopen, which, given this was a muted but extreme response, we could get a good session on Sunday. But obviously the equities are going to really start pricing this in Monday when they trade again, and so that'll really be the time to see, what's happening. All right, have a good weekend. Thank you, everybody. We will see you guys Sunday or sooner.
See you then.
You're welcome, Ted. And once again, guests, thanks for coming. Join us in TRG. You'll find it useful, I think.